Yeah, it's nice to be able to hear such positive things, and it touched my heart, and we can do it again. So we thought I just wanted to share a little bit that I can share as a kukum and as a mother and as a leader for my community. So with that, I thank each and every one of you for being able to listen to what I had to share. May gusari kinanas kumitnawa.
So before we let the panelists off the hot seats there, what we did this morning with our first panel is we asked them some questions about moving forward. There's a lot of interest online. I've been reading some of the comments on the YouTube channel, and they're asking us, how do we take these conversations forward now? What can somebody at home or people here in the audience do to build on this momentum and move forward in this way? So I'm just going to turn the table over to you guys to give me your last little bit of perspectives on that.
Hello? Okay. Well, I think just going back to, I think a lot of what the audience has said, certainly we had some clan mothers here. I think, going back to honoring women in the community, honoring life givers, especially our earth, and sometimes making tough stands. And that includes, like we see in northern Quebec, with that one community that's standing in unity against the 5 logging companies. That's an example. They're not fighting about whether a tree is worthy of life or not. They're just saying, we're not going to accept violence, including to our trees and our water and our plant life. And to find ways to practice nonviolence and to take a strong, kind stand when we do see violence, whether it's silently disengaging or when we see things on the street. I often talk about Main Street. The violence has been so normalized on Main Street in the city of Winnipeg that people just drive by and they don't stop. And we see our women getting beaten on Main Street all the time when I drive by. And we need to stop and do our part to say, that's not okay. We're not going to stand by. And we're going to move forward in a kind way together to support all life, animal life, women, nature, trees, our animal life, our water, all life givers. And I just want to say miigwech for everybody for listening. I know that there's lots of conversations that happened over the 2 days. I apologize, I could only make it for a day and a half. But much of what I share, I've learned from people in this room. So it's not my knowledge, it's actually the knowledge that I've been given by many people in this room. So with that, I say miigwech.
So I'll be really brief. What I'd add is that, I want to echo my brother Kobe's, what he was talking really a lot about, and what I was reflecting about is, it is really education that got us into this difficult struggle, and it is education that will get us out of it. And that education, I think, that has to do a lot to do with empowerment, but it really has a lot to do with affirming what everything we need is already there. One of the greatest teachings I've ever received is an elder who said to me that we knew about the internet before it was the internet. We had the internet for thousands of years. And so these things are not new things. We have had ways that we have done things that have been as valuable and were useful for the 10,000 years, 30,000 years, millennia before any European ever set foot over here. And I have, in a constant battle at the University of Manitoba I deal with the so-called learned peoples amongst my colleagues, and I had a professor say to me the other day, I can't really, bring Indigenous stuff into my math class because there's no such thing as Indigenous math. And I was like, you really think that Europeans brought math? Like, do you think that really? And so that's the kind of, us having the bravery to offend. And I want to just underline what Kobe said before about having the bravery to offer a perspective that doesn't fit within the current paradigm of seeing the way that we are seen and the way that we see ourselves. Our teachings are so vast, so intellectual, so complex, and they have always carried us this far, and they will carry us forward in this moment. So anything that we think of in terms of our nations, in terms of our communities, in terms of our families, they are already here. We are already doing them. Miigwech.
I think that's one of the important questions is, okay, well, how do we take this at home? How do we apply it? This conversation that we had today and yesterday, and in my humble opinion, to me it comes down to not necessarily how do I take it home, but how do I take it in within myself? How do I apply this within myself? And what is my role within my family and within my community? And to me, one thing I like to highlight in the context of that is, what does dignity mean to you? Because our people were really dignified peoples. And Andrea, my girlfriend Andrea, that's one of the things that she says, is our people were really dignified. And we knew who we were. We seen each other like how creators seen us. However, that dignity, that indigenous dignity, has been skewed, it's been manipulated to where our dignity is now in a form of seeking worthiness and recognition from colonial eyes. And so to me, taking it home is really about how do you take it home within yourself, and how do you awaken the original dignity of who we've always been since the beginning of time. And that'll expand in the family system, it'll expand in the community system. So it's like it comes down to dignity in terms of our political situation. Are you going to sell your dignity for dollars? Or is our people going to sell our dignity for dollars? And if you're not getting the answers at home, those people at home who are watching TV Land, if you're not getting the answers at home, then go demand those answers. Go occupy your band office. Demand those answers, because that's the hub of the Indian Act. And a lot of our indigenous politicians, they like to give this illusion that everything is going to be okay and that there's a magical money tree that comes from the federal government. And I'm going to ask you, the people out there, to ask really concrete questions, even if it's your uncle, even if it's your relative. Ask hard questions to those who are working in those administration buildings. Because in all honesty, those are abusive buildings, and I hate being in it. But that's the situation. So self-awareness, situational awareness, and question those who have the answers, especially our young people.
Thank you very much, Kobe. Okay, we're going to open up the mic. Yeah, I don't see nobody at the mic. That's surprising. So the people that are going to come up are going to ask very respectfully for you guys to keep it short, if possible, as short as possible, as short as you possibly can. And I believe this young man had something to say, but he wants to come say it up here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sylvester Owen, and I'm from the Eagle's Nest program. And I'm from Pangasi First Nation. Thanks. I'm currently 21 years old, and I'm pretty blessed for still being here today. I'm sorry, I'm kind of nervous right now, but yeah. I've been through and seen some pretty nasty stuff growing up, something a little kid isn't supposed to witness ever. But going through all those bad experiences made me into who I am today. But then again, to this day, I'm still trying to figure out exactly who I am, because I don't know anything about where I'm from besides the name of my reserve. And it makes me feel sad and empty not knowing who I am, because before I moved into the city, I spoke my language, which is Ojibwe. And English is my second language, but I lost the way to speak my language. And that hurts me a lot because I can't even have a simple conversation with my own mom, because all she speaks is our language and I can't understand half the things she says. I feel lost at times in my life, and I'm always asking myself, why did this have to happen to me? I've grown up by myself all my life. I got taken away from my mom at the age of 4 and placed into a foster home. I still remember the first night being there in a stranger's home. I cried all night for my mom to come and magically rescue me and take me home, but she never came. At first, I felt so mad and hurt. I wanted to hate her so bad because I was so young, and I didn't realize that at the time she was only doing what was best for me. She gave me and my siblings up to have a better life than what we would have been reduced to on the res, and it's not much. Over time, I've grown to accept that fact and forgave her for making me feel abandoned. I love her regardless of the circumstances I had to go through to get where I am today. But growing up in the system of foster care hasn't been easy. I've had to deal with the fact that I've had numerous workers like every 3 to 4 months, and apparently that's normal. Also deal with the nasty racist comments people would make towards me because I'm an indigenous person living with white French people, and they'd laugh at me because I didn't have real parents at the time. I've grown up most of my life with them, and they did bring me up good. They taught me things I thought I'd never learn or remember to this day, and I still use that knowledge in my own place that I have with my best friends that have always been there for me. But then again, as I grew up, I had my differences with my foster parents and realized more and more as I got older that they're using us kids in the system for their own benefits, and that's sick. But growing up in that family, I got a chance to go to some pretty good schools, and if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't know the things I do and wouldn't have experienced the things I got to experience. And for that, I'm blessed and thankful. Growing up without my family has been hard because I honestly don't know what it's like to have a real family or siblings. Only people to replace them as my parents and siblings. But here I am today standing in front of you telling you my life story. People wonder how in the world I find the motivation or courage to keep going, but I wonder that myself. To be honest and to be real, I'd like to become a young leader if I'm not already. I have the strong belief in myself that I could possibly become a leader of some sort, but just don't know how to approach that. I've had people from my reserve come to my face and tell me I should become chief out there, and to hear that from them, I was honestly speechless, but honored. And more, I believe I can and I want to. Growing up in this city has done me some good and bad, but that's just the way it is in Winnipeg. Seeing the things I see on a daily basis makes me want to change my ways and be a better person. If I had all the money in the world, I'd get our brothers and sisters off the streets because it hurts me deep down. Looking at them on the bus, knowing they're not doing good and they don't have any sort of supports or people to help them. But then again, you can't force people to change because then we'd be no better than the government, and that's the truth. I just wish it'd come to the point where our people would band together and stand as one, not many, and say enough is enough and get rid of the liquor marts and vendors, or at least raise the prices on their products so that the homeless can't easily get at it. I'm tired of seeing our people drunk and in bad shape, and I'm tired of everyone else talking down on our people because in the end, we had it the worst, and we still do to this day. We're at the bottom of the food chain, and we honestly need to start working together, not against each other. Enough of the diversity because of which res we're from or who we represent. We just need to be one nation and stand strong together with our heads up high, but also we need to go back to our old ways of life because this white man lifestyle we live in, it doesn't suit us one bit. We need to change for the better because no one's going to be there to help us but ourselves. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Wow, very moving speech. Thank you, Sylvester. You are a leader, actually. Those are really wise words coming from such a young man. And I can't speak well enough about the Eagle's Nest program. If you're interested in it, we have some of the staff members here who can give you further information if you know some young people who maybe are looking for a program to, find their leadership skills. We're going to go to the floor to Sylvia, and then I'm going to turn it over to the Grand Chief so that he can acknowledge our speakers, our panelists. Is the mic on?
All right, there's a button you press. Leah. This question is to Leah and also to the other panelists, and I'd probably like to throw it out to the audience as well. Everybody more or less knows me through Idle No More, and one of the biggest things that I'm coming across, and I was told by the elders not to defend myself, but whenever we start a project like the One House campaign, we put a video out. The first to attack are Indigenous men. So I'm finding that there's the violence against women is somehow connected to the women that are leading Idle No More. And I'm beginning to feel frustrated with that. I am, because I've been told not to defend myself, but so what do? Do I go and approach them with tobacco and tell them stop? And these are very influential Indigenous men and non-Indigenous men. And I'm not saying that to attack the men. There was research done. There was actually an agency that did research, and they found that a lot of the attacks came from men. And a lot of the experience for me being in Idle No More, there was a way too much comfort to attack me. And then we figured out, because I'm darker skinned, I'm short, I'm Indigenous, and I'm outspoken, a lot of men are very comfortable to attack me. So we're going on to the 4th year of Idle No More, and every time we do something, we get attacked. So I'm putting it out to the panelists. What do you suggest? How do we move forward in addressing that even in our own communities when we try to correct things or make change? Thank you. That was a great presentation.
Thanks for the question, Sylvia. And I just wanted to acknowledge our young leader that just spoke, Lester and Sylvester. Okay, sorry, I'm not a young leader, I'm hard of hearing, sorry. But I think that's part of kind of the residue that's come out of our experience, is that we've learned how to be mean to each other. And I see it all over the place. I see it on social media. I see it in public. The way that people speak to each other, yell at each other. And I've really tried to think about why that is over the years. And one of the things that I think about, maybe I'm off because I don't have the answers, is it's like internalized racism. It's like our colonizer taught us how to hate ourselves so much that every time we see somebody that's like us, we attack each other. So even with, let's say, resource development, I know where I stand on resource development. I don't like it. But they put people in our community as faces, as distractors, because they know where our focus will be. And really, when you look at resource industries, even extraction industries, they are peanuts in these massive corporations that are ripping apart our forests, that are polluting our waters, because they feed off our internalized racism. And so part of the way that I'm dealing with it is I'm disengaging, whether it's deleting, whether it's staying by myself, whether it's going into ceremony. I do the things that I need to do to try and stay balanced, whether it's going to yoga every day. I go to yoga, I work out, I go to ceremonies, I have a group of friends, I spend time alone. I do a lot of self-care because really, at the end of the day, the power is within me, and if I give my power away outside of myself, if I give my power away to focusing on those that don't like me, because there's lots of people who don't like me, then I'm taking all that energy I can be using to do something positive, and I'm wasting it on hatred. And I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore, and I'm not going to participate in any kind of violence, whether it's directed at me or other people, because it hurts. Whether it's emotional violence, whether it's physical violence, whether it's psychological violence, whether it's saying something that demeans somebody and shaming them. Those are all opposite of all the valuable lessons I learned from my parents, my mother, so I don't want to participate in it. So I'm going to try my best to walk in a kind, loving way. And when somebody treats me with disrespect, I'm going to address it back to them by treating them with respect, because I don't have to stoop to meanness to be an equal. I want to be an equal in a place of love. So that's kind of where I'm at. I couldn't see you, Sylvia, because I need glasses. I just found you. I was kind of looking for you. Where is she? Okay, thanks.
Kobe likes to go last every time. Then we start massaging and stuff. There's two parts to this answer, Sylvia. So I mean, it's nice to see you. We see each other only on political stuff. So, but the first issue is that the violence seen during Idle No More against women, and particularly women that took a leadership role, was completely unacceptable, and it had to be engaged every moment. It's an emergency situation in so many communities. And I witnessed it firsthand, and the only way that it can be dealt with is in the moment, in that time, because it is such an urgent situation involving the violence in relation to women, Indigenous women. At the same time, there's a longer game, I think, that we have to play with our young Indigenous men, if that's who we're going to put our attention onto. And I've said many times that many of our issues are related to the unhealthiness of our men, and the unhealthiness in relation to our young Indigenous men in particular. I work with a lot of young Indigenous men at the Manitoba Youth Center, and these are all really gifted young men who have lost their way and have no mentors, have no ability in which to, when they come out, to be able to see a healthy uncle to walk them into a path of nonviolence, of safety, of health towards yourself. And so there's two parts to that. The first is that we all have a role to play in the health and the protection and the safety of our Indigenous women, period. Every moment that it's seen, every opportunity that we can to be an ally, every opportunity that we can to intervene, we have to take it. It's an emergency situation. The second is that we have to play the long game with our young men. Our young men have to be mentored and have to be spent like the ways in which our uncles and our aunties used to take those young men and spend time with them, that they not only receive those first visions and those first names, but that they learn the practices of fire making. But we might call it something different now. We might call it growing up, but it is those initiations into becoming an honorable, good Minnow-Bemadzawin man, that those need to be reinstituted, and we all have to take some role into that, into helping our young men become healthy.
I can't sit and talk. I have to stand. Benjamin Badger has the answer. Just kidding. My brother Benjamin Badger, we traveled to Winnipeg together, And we're roommates. We've been roommates since last night. We were roommates. And I woke up this morning to Benjamin Badger. The first question he asked me, "Are you a misogynist?" Like he said that. Well, he didn't ask it like that in that kind of voice, but that was like right away a real heavy, like a real hardcore conversation. You know, "Are you a misogynist?" And we had a really cool conversation. First conversation this morning, me and Ben. And it really highlighted for me the journey that I went on within myself to acknowledge the unhealthy and messed up perceptions that I had towards women. And a lot of men have that perception, and a lot of them don't want to admit it. They don't want to admit it. And so Sylvia, you know, I take Sylvia as my sister. She took me as her brother, and when I was watching, you know, the comments that she would get, you know, on Facebook, and the criticism, the majority of them coming from men, many of them that I know, that I'm acquainted with, that I'm friends with, I was disappointed. But it also, for me, what I've needed to do is acknowledge, okay, how does that exist in me? How has misogyny existed in me? And it did. And that's why I told Ben this morning, was yeah, I did have this distrust towards women. And a lot of that came from the relationship with my mom, who's freaking awesome. I love my mom. And how the innocent comments that she would make, that me as a child, as a young boy, where I would begin to see myself as unworthy as a man. It like my masculinity became unworthy. It was really interesting how that happened in my life. And so in my journey, you know, in my healing journey, is basically acknowledging the blocks that I had within me that prevented me from accessing the femininity that existed in me. And I've also had to embrace the masculinity in me. And so there was like this dance that I've experienced and that I've gone through in the relationship with myself and the women in my life. And a lot of men are afraid to go there, and a lot of women are afraid to go there because there's a lot of shame around it. And I think the invitation is for people to begin to look at what's the shame that exists within us, and what's those emotional blocks that has happened in our life, both from both parents, whether they were there or not. Maybe they should have been there and they weren't there, or they weren't. And a lot of that shows up in our relationship between men and women, and the masculine and feminine within ourselves. So I don't have the answer, but I can share from my experience in my journey of how I've been practicing and working towards that balance that exists within me. And I'm really grateful to the women in my life at home who have really played a huge role in that healing journey, because it's been very painful, but also very liberating. So that's the only thing I can say in response to that question.
Miigwech for those wise words. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to start wrapping up, guys. I know everyone's looking at me like, why? Why gotta wrap it up? There's so much information and so much knowledge that was shared here today, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that wanted to say something. But then again, we're going to be doing this again. This isn't the last time that we're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing this all over again. One of the things that I encourage everybody here is when you walk out these doors, leave the negative here. Take the positive with you. This is a positive step toward the future. Not only our future, but our 7 generations, right? Thinking about that, take the positive with you when you leave here today. I'm going to turn it over to my...
Like Ryan said, there's a lot of great discussion and dialogue. We're apologizing that we can't really get to everybody. Some of our panelists are under some time constraints with pre-existing commitments. So I'm just going to call the Grand Chief. I think he has some words to offer us in closing down here, and as well as some gifts to present to our panelists.
Can we let somebody share something first? Because these are grassroots people that have traveled far, and they have a few words, and they'll say it really quickly.
Bonjour. Wab min Dijnikas. I think do them. I hear you speak about our men. There's not much men left no more like who will stand up for our people, because they gave into that society that everybody wants now. Every day I defend and guard our people out there. A lot of them pick on me from these premises here, degrade my interest of my being, of who I am, an Indian. You pick on your own people, you have to stop that too. Religion has corrupted your minds far beyond reality now. You have hurted yourself with this. Look at the Canadians here. The Canadians should be sitting on one side of the chair while our nation talks to these people and talk about them, what they're doing to our people. Prisoning our people, stealing our children, raping our kids, molesting our children while they're at it. But you want to go knock on their doors for more help. They're not into helping nobody. As far as I know, they've been killing us since their arrival. They're not stopping. Look at yous. You all talk about sadness today. The sadness was brought upon something you want to get away from, this system. Tonight when you go home, remember I'm on guard for yous. I'm not here to harm none of yous. I'm here to protect yous from the colonialists who's harming yous. I'm not your enemy. We are the original people of this territory. No matter how far I walk my feet, this land is connected from one ocean to the other. Many have surrendered their, as they would call it in international law, their privileges and treaty rights to their lands. They signed treaties to accept their laws. We already had laws here to govern ourselves. They call it our ways of living, not their ways. But if you accept their ways, you want to talk on behalf of their ways, then you got to live their ways and accept their ways, because I feel like I'd be betrayed for standing up for somebody who's selling me out. And it hurts my heart to hear it over and over and over again. Where's Trudeau? He should be here speaking nation to nation. With our nation, we already know the compromise they gave to us on our nations. Every one of us, they abused our reserves. Every time we spoke up, said something, or did anything, they cut your funds, took your children, and raped your men. Turned them into little people now, to hurt you women. That's what they done. You could see it going on everywhere. Nobody wants to talk about it because everyone's scared that they know the abuse they have done to our people in history. I'll say it again, they raped you. And they're not going to stop till you stand up and take pride in your history, your beliefs, and forget about the European way. Eastern people have demonically tear apart our nature, our well-being, and our sovereignty they want now. And you want to surrender your sovereignty? Don't get mad at me when I'm standing on the other side protecting our children. If you want to join them, these are going to be killing me too. Okay? I'm going to stand up for you. I don't want to die. Not for something you don't want. I'm not afraid to keep going on. My life is here. My life is everywhere now. Because our people are in trouble. In trouble with that system that we're trying to get away from. The Indian Act protects you. The paper that they brought here, they call it the Magna Carta, the Great White Law. That Magna Carta is actually the white law, and you want to join the white society. You never could join it. Can't even change it because they have the copyrights, the patents to everything that governs that society. And if you want into it, it's going to be very hard because this is what has come. You fight each other for the resources that are left that they have taken on us. You fight for what's left now, and I don't want you to help them. Okay? I did my best to helping out people in the city here. I've been degraded several ways, I'm sure, because nobody comes around no more. and helps. Nobody invites us no more to advise us of the problems. And it ain't no history fact, and this ain't no joke. It ain't actually no joke what's going on. Our histories has to take a turn now. Our environment's in danger. The next talk coming up with Mr. Trudeau, they call him, well, it's about the environment. I don't think there should be no pipelines no more. You don't think 150 nations who sold off to that pipeline? Nations, they divided themselves. But anyways, it is serious that this matter is resolved soon, because I want to move on with you people too, but it's hard. I want to join you, but it's hard. I care for you and I will stand, but there's a limit to where your spirit is going and where the spirit of our ancestors was told us to go. I'll choose that path. Miigwech.
Miigwech for letting my brother here speak. Buju, Crystal, Nijnakas, Gitagakuns, Intago, Skati Wazage Gun, Nedunji, Moose Totem. I sat in the comfort of my living room and I watched the live stream yesterday. And from what I saw here is I noticed that a lot of our own people think that we can walk in two worlds, but the truth is we have to choose one or the other. Are we going to be Aboriginal Canadian, or are we going to be Anishinaabe, Nihia, Dene, etc.? Because we have to choose. There's no such thing as walking in two worlds, because when we're talking about sovereignty, there's no such thing as sitting on the fence. There's no such thing as chipping away at the system from the inside. So we really need to, if we're talking about sovereignty and you want to talk about nationhood, then we need to start taking action and talk about tangible solutions. And I do have a tangible solution. It's not just a solution that's unique or that I came up with, because I think a lot of people have that solution, and it's our ancestors that have that knowledge, and then we need to go back to that. And we were talking about going back to the lands. Well, you know what? There are people in this room that are willing to go back to the lands, and they don't need a permit. They don't need to lease or ask for permission to go there, because they're willing to do that. And so the reason why I'm up here is because I want to tell you guys that there's people over there that are trying to fundraise so that they could go back to the land without permission and assert their jurisdiction on Anishinaabe lands, which we're standing on right here. So I ask that the people in this room, and a lot of you have a lot of social influence, a lot of you are on social media, have a lot of followers. I ask that you guys think about what are you going to do to support or to help the warrior people that are willing to do this, because there are people here, and go talk to them because they're over there. So I ask that you support people in returning back to the lands and living like our ancestors. And I know that, there's all this technology and it's not possible to live off the land the way our ancestors did, but the least we could do is try to protect what little water that we have left, because when I go out west or when I see what's happening with people in their resistance camps, they're doing it. They're walking their talk. They're having these resistance camps to protect the lands and the waters, and they're asserting their jurisdiction. And having been in a place like that and coming back here, I feel frustrated and I feel tired of waiting, and I don't want to ask for permission. I just want to see our people do this and go back to the lands. Let's start rebuilding on our ancestral lands, have language immersion camps, and find sustainable ways of keeping ourselves going. There's ways and things that we can do. I know my dad talked about harvesting blueberries, but then where he stops is, oh, we got to ask for permission. But I tell him, no, let's just go and do it. So that's just one thing that I wanted to share, because I feel like we're focusing on the problems and we need solutions. And the people in this room, I know a lot of you have solutions. So I don't think that we should be cutting this short, because there's people, I'm sure, that have solutions. Miigwech, And I want to walk the talk. I don't want to keep talking, oh, we should go back to the land, because we need to do it. And the time to do it is right now. Miigwech.
Sorry, we have to acknowledge the speakers before they leave.
Miigwech, I can't bring any justice to the words that have been shared here today or yesterday. There's nothing that I can say that can resonate stronger than the emotions and the energy that has come into this space. I acknowledge all of the speakers, including the young man and the young woman who finished off our discussion here today, talking about the need, the necessity to go back to the land and start occupying our spaces. I want to acknowledge those young people that came up and did that, because I support the energy of our youth. I need to acknowledge the speakers who have come here today and shared with you, brought their own flavor, their own ideas, their own thinking on this. I handpicked and selected every single person that spoke here today, as well as yesterday. I've seen and traveled across the country and in different parts of North America to see and listen to the speakers that are bringing the good energy, using their gifts in a good way to draw people together. I believe that this is only the start of a discussion that needs to continue. People express their gifts in different ways. Some people are going to go out onto the land and do certain things. Some people are going to travel in other circles and do other things as well. But we have to honor and respect the different gifts that people bring to the forefront. It's a tremendous time that we're living in. And I believe this is only the first of other discussions that need to happen. You know, when I talked about tea in Bannock, I envisioned coming in here and smelling tea. I envisioned coming in here and smelling Bannock coming right out of the fryer. You know, that's what I thought, you know, and different types of jams, you know, because we all like to have our Bannock with different types of jams sometimes, you know. But maybe as we go along, you know, the smell of the food that draws us together will find its way. Maybe the next one is going to be a pemmican dialogue, or maybe a dried moose meat dialogue, something like that, you know. But we got to keep it going. We got to keep it going. I'm going to give these gifts to our panelists. And then I know these drums want to sound. The energy of the drums is there. They want to sound. And then we're going to close it off that way. So miigwech for everybody for sticking around and sharing your energy with us. Nigon, please. Leah. Colby. I'm going to, I believe that maybe we should ask the elder that did the pipe ceremony to come and close us off with a prayer and then the drum song. Wally. Wally Swain led our pipe ceremony yesterday morning, and I believe that we are now dimming the fire somewhat, and I'd like to ask him to come up and say a few words and maybe a short prayer for us to close off. You guys ready after that? Okay.
Hello. Miigwech. It's been a good 2 days, good sharing. It's those good feelings that we take home. We take those beautiful feelings to our homes. Take them with 2 hands and bring them into your home. This is what Anishinaabe Tawin is about, so that we can do what we need to do. We didn't need permission to do that pipe yesterday. We don't need permission for those songs, for the drum to sound. That's our way. And so we need to learn to do that, accept that. And the way that I've life, because only I can apply those teachings to me. And I can only help me apply those teachings and use those teachings in the same way those elders shared them with me. And so we need to look at those beautiful teachings that the elders have that come from ceremony. So I thank each and every one of you for being here. And the other thing, the drum that was here this morning, and how those young men sang their song, and then those two young women came forward and joined them. That's our way. Get up and do it. Like those two young ladies did. Like those young men who sat at that drum. Is get up and do it and make it happen. And that's what makes us strong. That's when we stand strong. And if I can stand strong, you can stand strong too. And we can stand strong all together. And by doing that, we become strong Anishinaabe people. Strong Anishinaabeg. So I thank you. And when I get home, I will lower that pipe so that each and every one of you can have a safe journey home. Aho, miigwech.